Hello everyone, Star Baby Homestead here. Today I want to do a video on onions and how I am going to be planting my onions, at least for this year. It's actually an experiment that I've started working on. I used to buy onion sets and I don't know, they never really turn out well. I think I've had some Italian sweet cipollini onions come out really well. I got them from Tractor Supply and they bulbed up nicely, really great onions. But I'm thinking that I want to start growing my onions from seed. Um, the ones that I have, they've all actually been bunching onions that I've tried before, but I haven't had a really great success with bulbing onions. I don't know why. So after scouring the internet, and I think I got some of this technique. I got it from the Millennial Gardener, and which you may have gotten it from someone. I don't know. I'm just giving credit to who I saw before. I know there's a lot of ideas. There's no new ideas under the sun, but I do want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. So what you need is either you can do a milk carton, which I've already used this technique and I've had really good results from it. The Millennial Gardener, he uses pickle containers. I just happen to have these, which are pickle containers. They're not very large though, as you can see, but I don't think you need a large container. You really just need some sort of plastic container that can hold moisture. Now you want to make sure that you have a container with a lid because you want almost a greenhouse effect. You want it warm and you want it moist because onions love moisture and they love warmth. So I already have started two already. I've got some Texas grano onions and then I've got some red Creole. This is just a container that had cheese in it from Kroger. And now I'm going to be planting some white Creoles from Baker Creek. You know what? I may try, let's see, what are these back here? These are crystal white wax, but you know what? I want to use up these white Creoles because I actually bought them, I think at the end of the year. So, a lot of people just do one planting of onions. I plan on planting onions year round. Probably at least 3 sowings each. So that means planting them or sowing them in late fall, which is what a lot of people do, right? Or early spring. And then they dry out their onions. And, well, I live in Georgia. It's hot and it's moist. And we have to grow long day onions here. Actually, correction. I always get it backwards. We grow short day onions in the south and long days are in the north, right? So anyway, these are short day. So they're sweet onions usually, and they have a high sugar content, which can cause a lot of rot. They're hard to store. We don't have cellars here. So, I mean, unless you have you want to keep them in a refrigerator, I guess you could do that. But, I mean, a whole year's worth of onions in the refrigerator just doesn't sound just feasible to me. It sounds like also like a waste of space. We just don't have that kind of space. So it's better to have large crops of onions coming in a circular fashion throughout the year. So you plant your bunching onions, then you plant your bulbing onions. So that's spring. There's fall, and then you could probably plant in the summer or winter for some overwintered onions. So I already have some that are in the ground that I started in late winter. They're already in the ground. I used this method before. I'm going to keep you abreast on how they grow. Actually trying to put them in ground is a little hard sometimes because sometimes they sprout, sometimes they don't. This is almost guaranteed, especially if you have fresh seed. It is guaranteed that you're going to get a good result from it. So what do? First, we have our container. And you want to put in anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of soil. You're not poking any holes in here now. Let me break up this lump here. You're not poking any holes. Got some big chunks of wood in here. You want to kind of... You probably need finer soil than I do. I actually had some seed starting mix, but I kind of ran out, so this is a little of my regular soil left over. So, you know, just take out your big chunky wooden pieces and chuck them. And then, so that kind of leaves you, you know, with about 1 inch or so. You could go up to 2 inches. I think I did that with the rest of them. Now, when your onions are going to kind of grow tall. So, putting them inside of a milk carton or a water carton or whatever, one of these gallon things, are easier for your onions to grow up tall. But you know what? I like to use everything. Anything at my disposal to grow seedlings in, I'm going to use it. And this also, you can use them over and over. And that means less plastic in the environment. So, okay. This is a bit woodier than I like. I think I'm going to sift this and I'll come right back. All right, so I have about 1 inch of soil in here. Sifted so it's not too chunky. And I kind of like to use spray bottles when I'm watering. It just feels natural to me. It helps me control my water a bit more. And now when you see, when I'm spraying it in here, you want to saturate this soil, which is great when you get the clear ones because you can really see. You don't ever want it to be too dry. All right, so we're going to let that seep in till it gets all the way to the bottom. All right, see, good and saturated all the way through. There's a little dry area, but it will absorb. All right, so I'm going to take our onion seeds. Now, I'm pretty liberal with my sprinkling. Let's see. It could be anywhere from 20 to 30 or more seeds in here. The good thing is you don't have to thin. All right, so now our onion seeds are on top. And give it a little spray just to sit them there. And then I'll take some soil and then I'm just going to sprinkle it on top. Just like that. Just to barely cover the seeds. All right, let's wet it up again just to dampen the top. Got our trusty marker here. And what are these again? These are onions, white Creole. Now, you stick a lid on there like so, and then you want to crack it just enough to let a little air in. Now during the winter, you just keep these under heat lamps or someplace warm and they'll germinate. Since it is 80-something degrees out here, I don't think there'll be any problem with your seeds germinating. What you will have to look out for is maybe some algae or some mold growth. So that's why it's good, you know, to kind of just keep these open. You want condensation, you want it to stay moist, but you just want to keep them contained in the seed while the seeds germinate. So same thing. The great thing about using one of these, I love these guys, you just kind of lop it off in half or at the top. You can fill it with probably anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. I say you really only need about 2 inches of soil. You know, you remember the science experiments you used to do as kids, like planting and growing certain things? You always used to use these milk cartons, right? So same thing, you sow the seeds on top, just tape it around, hinge it, you know, so that you can kind of check on it and water it. And then you can always open this or even leave this open for it to get oxygen. So when you're ready to water, you just take the lid off, right? And then you just spray. Like I said, I like to use a sprayer because it's not as harsh as just pouring water in, which can disturb the soil as well as the seedling. So when these start sprouting, I'm going to check back in. All right, it's been about a week now. Let's take a look at our onion seedlings. All right, so here's our Texas early grano. This is after a week. They've been in their little humidity chamber. All right, let's put that back over there like so. And okay, our Creole are kind of a few days behind, so we're just gonna. And you know what? When did I buy this seed? I may have bought it last year. If these don't sprout, I'm gonna plant the new onions that I got, because I'm not certain, but I think you're supposed to replace onion seed yearly. I get confused about which ones you're supposed to replace and not. I know parsnips happen to be one of those that you need to do fresh every year. And these are our red Creole. See how well they're doing? Now these all are going to grow as individuals. Now I'm going to give this probably another week or so. Now, you know what? I don't mind as they get tall that they kind of press up against the top of this. That's why sometimes you may want to get the taller pickle jars. But again, I don't buy deli. You probably can order them off Amazon, honestly. But you guys, we're about being sustainable and not using a whole lot of money for things. And if you just happen to have these are reusable. Why not use these to plant seeds in? Instead of buying like more plastic and, you know, to just store somewhere, just to keep somewhere. But I'm not knocking anything. This is just what we do. We're doing stuff that we get when we're getting to-go boxes or we buy stuff from the store. Obviously, mozzarella cheese container, right? And I just use these as humidity chambers. So as these grow, yes, they're going to kind of fill up this top. When they get to a certain stage, when they're strong enough, then I'm going to take the lid off and then just let them, you know, grow out in the open air. But for now, we're going to keep these closed so that they can germinate. Again, I kind of give them a little bit of a crack. That's what keeps kind of like the mold down. So it's kind of like this, you know, the little slit. And then, yeah, I just have these resting outside. You can put them in full sun if you want. It may get a little hot, so as long as it's someplace warm. Don't burn up your seedlings by putting them in the sun. If you do, just do morning sun or afternoon sun, but not full heat of the day until these are strong enough that they can handle it and you can kind of harden them off. So I'm going to give these another week or two, and then we'll talk about what I do to start fertilizing them. So here we are, less than 2 weeks later, about a week and a half. Look how much they have grown. You see that? They are just now starting to get to the top of our container, and this one's springing out. Now, right about this time here is when you want to start fertilizing, but you want to fertilize with some really diluted fertilizer. So you can use Miracle-Gro if you're growing your seedlings inside, and then you can use a diluted fish fertilizer if you're growing them outside. Now, fish fertilizer stinks. You know how much it smells. So, I mean, unless you have a back room, you can still use it. I kind of use fish fertilizer for my indoor plants and my outdoor plants. But again, I dilute mine so that it's not really pungent. But if you just don't want to deal with that smell at all, I recommend you use the Miracle-Gro, but dilute it a lot. It's usually this small Let me see. Okay, so here's what you would normally use. Use the big side for garden. This is 1 big scoop per gallon. And then for indoor plants, it's the smaller scoop. I would probably go with the smaller scoop with the ratio of 1 small scoop per gallon. And then maybe even dilute it a bit more. So weekly, you probably want to go ahead and fertilize these guys weekly, and then still continue to keep them moist. Now I'm thinking, since it's really warm outside already, when I started this, I was growing them inside. The ones that I have out in the garden have been grown inside. So this is my first batch that I'm doing like this outside, and then I would just harden them off. Well, you just want to keep the soil moist. So got your spray bottle here, and then you just give them a little bit of a spray. Just keep them moist. But other than that, you probably don't have to keep them enclosed. You could. Uh-oh, I got one. I pulled one out by the roots. I can just shove that probably back in the ground, but I might chuck it. So you can still, I may leave the lid on these a little bit longer since they haven't quite reached the top of the container yet. This is why probably people would maybe want bigger pickle jars, because, you know, onion seedlings grow pretty tall. But when you put these in the ground, they're just going to kind of stand up on their own anyway, or flop over. But as long as they're not bent, they're still going to bulb. So I'm going to check back with you maybe in another week or two, and we'll see how much they've grown then. Here in my strawberry bed, I already have some onions that I have planted. Now, this is my first time growing onions, or companion planting onions. I usually do garlic in the strawberry bed. If you looked at my previous video, I decided to plant my garlic separately in this bed over here. And I ended up with a lot of witch's broom. Now, that could have been because of the crazy fluctuations we've had in temperature. Again, it's been seriously hot. First it was dry, then it was cold. It was just a nightmare. But, so let's check out this onion here. So, I believe this is a Texas grano. That's a really nice size onion. Now, I'm going to leave it in here so that it can get bigger. Some of them, their necks are already starting to fall over. So, using this planted method, you can plant your onions separately if you want larger size onions. Or if you just want to, you know, kind of interspace them amongst your plants as also as pest deterrent. Now, what I've also done is I've done multi-sown red grano over here. And look at the size of these. Now, I see I have a big one here, and when you multi-sow, you may end up with smaller harvest. I could possibly twist this out and let the rest of them keep growing. But these are some nice size onions that are still growing here, and their necks aren't bent, so they've got a while to grow. So I guess it's just what you want. If you want a lot of smaller onions, then you can multi-sow, which will give you a lot of onions at once. Or you can, there's some more just for reference. So these are still some nice size onions, even though they were multi-sown. So they're just as big as if I would have planted them separately. So I guess it's going to depend on what you want and the type of onions that you want to grow. This one is one that was grown separately. Now this is enough for us. These smaller onions are enough for us. We don't really need huge, gigantic onions, even though we use a lot of them. But I also said that what we were going to be doing is, because we have such a long growing season here in Georgia, I'm going to do succession planting with these onions. It's just not feasible to just grow one pile of onions and then expect that pile of onions to last us the entire year, because a lot of times they just don't keep. It's zone 8A, 8B here in Georgia. It's hot, it's moist. It could be a drought sometimes, but it's hot, so it's really hard to keep stuff, especially if you're going to put them in the refrigerator. We do not have tons of room for onions inside of our refrigerator, so we're going to go through these. So that's why I already have, these are from spring. These are from the spring planting. And then the ones that I show you that are already inside of the Tupperware, inside of those pickle containers that I'm growing these in, those are going to be the next planting that go out. So when those that are in the pickle containers are ready to go out, those are probably going to be cropping in late fall. It's going to be time for me to plant my winter onions, and those can overwinter out in the garden, especially when I don't have much going on except for maybe some brassicas. But brassicas love when you plant onions with them. So great companion plants, help to deter pests, even though you don't really have to worry about too many pests in late fall, early December, because those cabbage moths are not flying. But so far, I'm enjoying this planting method. I also enjoy the multi-sowing because I feel like I'm still getting a good crop that comes with the multi-sowing. So I guess it's up to, again, what it is that you want. So after about a few weeks or so, I let these go way longer. Your onion should look like this. Now, guys, this was full of a lot more onions for me to show you, okay? But I noticed before I was ready to finish off this video and start for today to show you how to plant these, I noticed a cutworm was in here. And as you can see, it's chewed off the tops of a lot of these onions. Now, onions are resilient, so I can still put these in. I'm just going to leave the top portion open above the soil line. And they're just going to keep growing. But that's something to look for if you happen to leave your seedlings outside. You may have to cover them, especially during the hot weather months, because cutworms are coming for your garden. Okay, so I'm going to be planting these in the salad bed right next to the carrots here along this entire row. So, all right, let's get started. First, I'm going to pull all this straw out of the way. We had a nice rain this morning, so the soil is already damp. All right. And then I'm going to just make like a row here. Now, I said before that these particular onions responded well to the separate plantings. Now, here, just want you to see, these are the red onions that I did in the strawberry bed, and I multi-sowed those in groups. As you can see, they are kind of okay. They don't look the greatest, but I'm going to plant what I have here and see how they respond. But they kind of responded the same way the last time when I tried to do the separate planting. So I think you may have to experiment with which onions are going to grow the best for you, whether you either multi-sow or you decide to do the separate planting like I'm doing here. All right, so let's drop some all-purpose in this little channel here. Now I made sure not to water these too much, and they will all just pop out. There's some nice roots in here, so you want to be careful with them. Our Texas onion popsicle stick. So if you just tease them gently apart, they'll just come apart like this. All right. So we're going to start by laying these in the row. And I'm going to put these probably about, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 inches apart. Maybe a little less. I'm going to lay them out. There's one that got chomped on. It's easier when they have a tail to them so you can see where they are and what you're doing. I got some gnats biting out here, guys. All right. Okay. Try to keep track of the ones that got chewed up. I like to leave mine in a little bit longer so I have a bigger bulb and that they're easier to see, so I don't end up like accidentally pulling one as a weed or something like that. Okay, so these ones, I don't even know if they're worth planting, honestly. I'm going to show you. So look here. All right. This is what I have left over that the cutworm got to. I don't think I'm going to save that. I think I'm just going to put that in the compost. It's just a little bit irritating. That is super irritating. Maybe I'll leave this one. It still sticking out just a little bit. All right, so now all we're gonna do is just cover them, get them down, get those roots down. You could stick your finger down in there, make a little hole, but again, you want to be really gentle with these roots. Want to kind of get them down and get them to stick up a bit so that the greens are above the top of the soil, because you know when onions start growing, they're going to bulb up. And to keep these moist, I've got this straw that I'm going to be putting around the base of them. Make sure you get all those roots covered. Do a small press. So that you got good connection with the soil. All right. There you have it. You see them all sticking up. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and water them in. And there you have it, people, growing onions in containers. Now, given this experiment, I have done the growing separately inside of the pickle jars and containers, milk cartons, and I have multi-sown. I'm going to say that I enjoy multi-sowing. And why is that? The size of onion that I got worked just as well as if I were to grow a really big onion. See, the thing is, we have a long growing season here in Georgia, Zone 8B. And because of that, it's moist, it's hot, it's hard for us to store a lot of vegetables unless you have a separate refrigerator, specifically for potatoes and onions and those type of vegetables that have a high sugar content that aren't going to store well. Well, growing sweet onions in the South is just what we do, and the onions do not keep well. So I plan on growing onions 4 times a year. You grow in the spring, you sow in the summer, and you sow in the fall. And then whatever you sown in the fall or winter can carry you on into the next following year because onions take like forever to grow. So with that, we have a constant supply of green and bulbing onions. So I'd rather just multi-sow and get a few small to medium onions than trying to grow the biggest onion that ever was because, I mean, we can't store and keep all these onions. And I actually would rather conserve my seed, even though, you know, you're supposed to buy seed every single year. I'd rather put that energy towards sowing them together and having them grow as a clump than trying to just do all of these little separate holes. So in a way, multi-sowing is a more economical or a, I don't know, more efficient way because you're not using up extra space with containers and that sort of thing. You can put all of your seeds into some plugs or just some regular seeding trays and they grow as a little clump. Then you can decide to like snip off the ones that you don't need. And then you just pop that in wherever you need to grow. And then they still grow to a nice size. So let me know, what is your favorite way of growing onions? Do you sow in planting cells? Do you direct sow? Do you use containers? Do you multi-sow? Leave me a comment below and please like and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to know more about gardening and our homestead journey. We're all in this together. We all love gardening. And I mean, we're kind of learning as we grow. Even the people who are masters, there's always something to learn. Be well, be blessed, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.